What about in terms of the real estate business? It's very cash intensive, right? Capital
Very
intensive.
yeah.
Are there times where maybe you have cash flow issues, or maybe you thought this building would do well, but it didn't do as well as you thought?
Yeah, in the beginning of the company, there was a lot of those peaks and valleys, and I remember we would raise money from everything, and about 2 years into the company, we had buildings that were opening that weren't filling, so they weren't cash flowing, but yet we had this tremendous burn.
Right.
And I remember my partner called me one day and he's like, do you have any money in your savings account, on your credit cards, anything? And I go, no, I've contributed, I'm maxed out. This is 2 or 3 years into the company. And my son had just been accepted to UCLA. He was a senior in high school. And I had a college fund for him. And I said, well, the only thing I have is my son's college fund. But he's going to UCLA in like 5 months, and we're going to have to use that. He's like, well, we'll have to use it. And I'm like, I can't tell my son he can't go to UCLA because he doesn't have the college fund. Right. And I had to have a painful conversation with my son and say, that in-state tuition at University of Washington's going to be a lot better than this out-of-state tuition at UCLA. And it was a disappointment for him, and a sacrifice we had to make the company grow. And that funded payroll, and we didn't get that back soon enough for him to go to college, and he ended up going to University of Washington, which turned out fine. But I think sometimes you look and you have to say, hey, if I want to stay in business, what lengths am I willing to go through? What pain? Even your family goes through a lot of pain.
Yeah, sacrifice.
What sacrifices am I going to make this thing successful? And right. I was kind of like the Astros, Houston, failure's not an option. That was kind of our attitude, because everyone in my family gave me money, which I really didn't want to take. But my sister, who was a social worker who never made over $43,000 a year, gave me her entire life savings and mortgaged her house. At that time, I said, there is no way I'm going to lose this money. So
you have to make it work.
You have to make it work. Whatever you do, how hard you have to work.
And I know that you spend at least almost 25% of the time mentoring entrepreneurs, athletes. Through that, all the people that you mentor, maybe they're growing their business, right? From 0 to that 1 million to 5 or 10. What do you think are the stages, and what do you see that's holding people back from going through each stage? Maybe it's 0 to 1 million, 1 to 10, 10 to 50.
Well, I think the number one thing is everybody has a different risk quotient.
Okay.
So, I can mentor someone till I'm blue in the face, but if they don't want to take any risk, and a lot of people say, well, I'm an entrepreneur, and they're really a 9-to-5er, they're not an entrepreneur. Yeah. So they say, oh yeah, I have that entrepreneur spirit. Well, what does that mean? I have this expression, what are you willing to do to get what you want to have? So what are you willing to do to really get what you want to have? Are you willing to sacrifice, give up your house, give up your comfortable living, eat top ramen for a year? I mean, what are
maybe
you?
2 years.
Maybe 2 years. What are you really willing to do to get what you want to have? And so the first thing is your risk tolerance. Because to be a really successful entrepreneur, you have to risk it all. And then you have to go all in terms of your work and your commitment. And when there's a problem, you got to figure it out. You got to have a backup plan. You got to have a plan B, C, D, E. So I think risk tolerance is the first thing. Then it's about confidence. When you start doubting yourself, you've lost. The game's over.
I don't know if it's going to work. Maybe I cannot make it, or
all these self-doubt thoughts that flow into your head. I'm not that smart. Why did I ever do this? This is not going to work. I don't have enough money. They don't believe in me. All these things that fly through your head. Now, every entrepreneur has those things that fly through their head.
They do.
Everyone does. The difference is the guys that make it dismiss those things. So no, I can do this. I am a smart guy. I will figure this out. So, but the guys who ponder it and wallow in those self-doubt, you're going to fail because you're programming your brain to fail.
Yes. And you were talking about when the air is thin at the top, right?
Yeah.
That when you're at that tip of the spear, when you're rising to the top, how has your life changed since through this rank, right? Because you also mentoring me and give me some advice. Hey, Daniel, as you go through this, it might take you a while to kind of get to the club, right?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a strata, whether you're talking about the size of a business or your size of your net worth or whatever it is, there's stratas, right? I mean, in today's world, in the 50s, if you were a millionaire, it was a big deal, right? Now everybody wants to be a billionaire. There's 2,043 billionaires in the world. Now that's the goal. Well, there's 2,043 billionaires in the world. That's not a lot considering the population of the world.
That's not a lot of people.
But I think the interesting thing about it is it's a matter of, it's not so much net worth or revenue, it's how you define your own success.
I love that.
And so you may not be super wealthy, but you may have a job where you only work 20 hours a week, and that's success for you.
And you have the freedom.
You have the freedom. You can coach your kid's baseball team and take vacations and so on. And maybe you make $200,000 a year, but you have all this freedom, and you work from your pajamas in your house, and that's success to you.
Yes.
So I wouldn't be so bold as to define success for everybody. Some people may see it as being a billionaire. Some may not. Some may want to be CEO. Some may not. So you have to really start and say, what is my definition of success? How do I view that? And you and I were talking earlier about vision boards and manifesting and so on.
That's actually share how you do vision
so
board.
It's kind of comical.
Yes.
In my house, my wife has her own bathroom commode, and I have my own bathroom commode. And in front of my toilet, I have a 7-foot cork board that's 3 foot wide, and it's plastered with my visions. And everything I want to focus on. Every time I go to the bathroom, unfortunately, I see those things and that I manifest. And so I have to look at them every day. And if I don't like them, or I want to change them or evolve, the other thing I do is I sit down and I write down where I see myself in 4 years.
Yes.
And I was telling you earlier, I just did this about a month ago. I did it in 2015, January of 2015. And of the 10 things I put down on this board, everything came true. All my goals, and some are quantifiable, some are about possession, some are about business, some whatever. But every one of those things came true.
And I was asking Dwayne about why 4 years, why not like 1 year or 6 months, right?
Yeah, and I think that the reason for me is you have to, if they're big goals, you have to have some patience. Now I'm not talking about where you think your company is going to be next month, what kind of revenues, how many buildings you're going to open, how many stores you're going to have, that kind of thing. I'm talking about big life-changing things. You may move to another country, or you sell a piece of your company, or whatever it is. Big goals. And I think for me, 4 years is like a presidential term, right? It's enough that you can get things done and accomplish and have some artifact of your success.
Right.